And we're live. Well, hi everyone, and thanks for joining us. Today I'm with Ash Playsted, who is a mindset coach who helps high achievers to accelerate their self-belief, access more of their potential, take intelligent action, and awaken the warrior within. He's the founder of the MindsetFit Method, a mindset training program. Well, thanks, Ash, for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to have a chat. And I think today's interview may help others who are thinking about their life and how they can make it better, or maybe are thinking of a career change.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate you to come and have a chat. Yeah, it's a beautiful Monday morning, and yeah, hopefully by discussing a bit about my journey, others might get some aha moments that help with their direction and choices. So yeah, looking forward to having a chat.
Yeah, no problem. Well, thanks. Thanks again, Ash. Well, we'll get right into it. Ash, if you wouldn't mind, would you please share a little bit about yourself, about your background and how you got started in mindset coaching?
Yeah, I'll give you as brief a description of my 37 years as I can. I'll squeeze it in. So my career, if you want to call it that, has gone in probably three phases. I've been in banking and finance, I guess the finance industry, for 37 years. I had about 14 years in corporate banking and finance straight out of school. So that went through to the mid 90s. Then I had a very strong yearning to do things. That's my nature. I like to create things, including businesses. So in the mid 90s, I left the paid workforce and started working for myself in the mortgage broking industry. And then over the course of probably the following 12, 13 years, maybe even 15 years, I started and exited 5 different businesses. So I guess during that time, I was exposed to every possible aspect of human nature, every possible aspect of my own inner strengths and weaknesses, because that's what entrepreneurship basically strips away everything. And, you're totally exposed, to the world and to the marketplace and to yourself. So, that was a really fantastic journey. As I said, I had 5 different businesses in mortgage and finance. I did a lot of business myself with clients. So I've written about $750 million worth of mortgages myself. I've had over 100 employees work for me. I've had to do everything from making the tea to selling the business, with involved with the business. So that was the second phase of my career, which I really loved. And probably the third phase of my career is full-time coaching. So, and then I had a gap, probably, Martin, in between probably entrepreneurship, and I'm still an entrepreneur, but in between running finance businesses and coaching, I took some time off to spend more time at home, watching my kids grow up and also caring for my ill mother, who eventually passed away. So I had a few years, living a different life, which was, I was very privileged and very humbled to be able to do those things. And then when I wanted to come back and into entrepreneurship, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't want to go back and do exactly what I'd done in the past. So I started coaching, just here and there, doing little bits and pieces, helping people one-on-one. And eventually that evolved into a more organised coaching business, which nowadays I have 2 coaching businesses. So interestingly, I'm still involved in the mortgage and finance industry. So one of the coaching businesses I run with a partner, we coach mortgage brokers on how to systemize and automate and run their businesses. So I run all the strategy and mindset within that business. And then I've got obviously my own direct mindset coaching businesses where I work with clients specifically around their mindset. So that's a sort of a lengthy answer. I'm married. I've got a couple of kids, 2 dogs, 2 cats, 2 kids. I live in regional Victoria, and I love the balance of regional living offers. It's fabulous.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent. Gee, you've been through quite a bit then. I mean, you've experienced a lot of different work scenarios. And yeah, I can relate when you mentioned about your mother, caring for your mother, because I've been through the same thing where she ended up in a home and eventually she passed away. So, but it's good, like you said, to be able to spend that extra bit of time during that phase because you're not going to get another chance. So that's excellent. And yeah, no, that's good. And one thing you touched on, entrepreneurship, you mentioned that it's kind of like a way to get to know yourself better, your strengths and weaknesses. In fact, I heard someone mention it, that entrepreneurship is the best self-development program you can do. And I tend to vouch for that. And I think you may agree with that too. So it is
I
very
sure do.
interesting. The other point you mentioned is about being creative. It seems like, yeah, you like to create things, which is interesting because I think we all deep down want to produce or create something because we are creators. We've been given the power to create. So I encourage people to create something in their life because to me, there's excitement in creation, but not in maintenance. And it's fulfilling to be able to create something. So that's fantastic. And you obviously have created a lot and you're still creating, which I think is good because it makes you feel and come alive. So that's excellent. Yeah, well, thanks for
Thank you.
sharing that, Ash. And was there anyone or anything that kind of influenced you to become a mindset coach? Like, what was the trigger?
Look, I don't think I would say there's one specific person. I could give you a few different factors, probably, Martin. I mean, my father, who's still alive, he's 89. He was an entrepreneur in the sense of he always worked for himself. He worked in life insurance and financial planning for over 40 years. So, right through the late 60s into the 70s and into the 80s, he was door knocking, cold calling, having to pick up the phone book and ring people and find customers. So very much from an early age, I had that built into me that, you've got to get out and talk to people and build relationships. So I think, as I came through my early part of my career in banking and finance, I enjoyed it and I was, reasonably successful in progressing along the career path. But I very much had a very strong yearning to create my own thing. I always believe that if I'm going to succeed or fail, I want it to be on my own terms,
Yes,
100% on my own terms.
that makes
And
sense.
I like creating success. I like creating momentum. But probably more importantly, Martin, I like creating success for other people around me. That's what I think, if I could pin one thing down for me, what drives me as an entrepreneur is helping other people succeed. It was there right from the start with helping customers with their finances because, right on the pyramid of things that people stress out about, money's right up there, right?
Yep.
And mortgages and debt are right up there with death and marriage and taxes. It just stresses people out. So I got a lot of pleasure out of helping people solve those problems and see with clarity a path forward. And then it came through to helping employees, and then it came through to putting people or hiring people and helping people within my business, whether it's other mortgage brokers, because I had up to 30 or 40 mortgage brokers working for me and with me.
Yep.
And the thing that always drove me was, helping them successful. That's what really drove me. Even though I wasn't directly coaching them and I wasn't directly focusing on mindset, it was just something that came naturally for me, to look within and to align your goals with your beliefs and with your desires. So that was something I always did naturally, Martin. And then I think it's evolved beyond that, and particularly with the online world. And as you know, I'm very active on LinkedIn. Early on when I was in coaching, it was just one or two people here and there. But one of the things that I find really exciting is the ability to communicate what I believe in to a much wider audience, which I really enjoy doing. Whether people become clients or not is secondary. But I really enjoy
Yep.
communicating what I believe in. So that all ties as to why. I mean, mindset's really just a word. I guess it's a word that a lot of people use, but it's really almost a spiritual journey about people discovering their true potential and finding the way to liberate their potential and have a path to follow to find out the best that they can be, whether it's in relationships, money, health, or anything else in between, Martin. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an answer as to why I love what I do so much. It's a natural calling for me. I get to help people. I get to create things. I get to talk about what I love, all at the same time. So I feel I'm very fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense what you said. And yeah, I can relate because I feel the same way. And yeah, it does seem like there are many people out there that are struggling, are suffering, and a lot of their suffering can be eased by knowing how to control the mind and how to overcome certain limitations. So that's excellent. Also, you talked about you enjoy, expressing yourself, which is interesting because to me, I think that's a key point for everyone to strive to, because I believe the soul is meant to expand and express. So the more we express ourselves, because I think deep down we all want to be seen, heard, and understood. And by expressing how we feel or our message, that's going to make us feel good. And the more we feel good, we're going to make other people feel good. So it is important for people to express themselves, because I've worked with a few people that are depressed or suicidal, and it's because they seem to be suppressing their emotions, keeping it in. And that's when it becomes toxic, because things don't flow. So it is important to just be authentic, put it out there, and not worry and just enjoy. So that's fantastic. I'm glad that you've mentioned a few of those points. I think can help people just think about that and process that today. Well, that's great. So in terms of building your business, did you do that while you were in the 9 to 5, or did you kind of stop one thing and then start, and then I don't know if you burnt the bridges to take the island, so to speak, or was there an overlap between your brokerage loan business and the mindset coaching? Was there a continuous overlap? It sounds like there is. Yeah.
Yeah, good question, Martin. I'll go back a little bit to answer your question. So when I left the paid workforce, I snapped it over my knee. One day I just said, right, today's the day. And I just quit there and then after 12 years with the same company and rising up to a sort of management level. I just quit, walked out one day and basically started the next day as a mortgage broker. That was my way of doing things. If I don't burn the bridge, as you said, or burn the boats.
Yeah, burn the boats. Yeah.
I don't like to leave a escape route open.
Yeah, good point.
So I'm a big believer in pursuing with passion and purpose what it is that you want. So for me, I had some hard times, I can tell you. The first 2 years, I was earning considerably less than the job I left. So it was a long journey with a lot of doubt and a lot of questioning, and from the people that I love, when are you going to get a real job? When are you going to give this thing up? So there's a lot of challenges, but I stuck at it. And I remember one day, Martin, I took a $50,000 overdraft, which was a fair bit of money 20 plus years ago. And I was drawn to $49,700. So I had $300 of debt, not my own money, no money in the bank, no customers. And that was it. And I just remember being awake at 2:00 in the morning, absolutely facing my demons about this a couple of years in. And, I just got out there the next morning and started talking to people. And I think, that was a real pivotal moment for me about, if you're not committed to your dream, there is 100 things that will pull you away from your dream and pull you back to the bias of what you're trying to leave behind from a mindset perspective, because that's the way our brains work. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was learning very important lessons about passion, purpose, So these things all fed into my belief that, you know, it is very difficult to build different businesses at the same time. That it's definitely better to, for me anyway, to focus, you know, exclusively as possible on your, you know, your business. You know, yes, I know there's a lot of people who build businesses while they're still working in a job, and if that's what you need to do to get started, that's what you need to do. For me, that was just like kill it stone cold dead.
Yep.
And start the next day with no other option other than making it work. So that was back then. Moving forward to the mindset side of it, you know, it was probably a little bit more organic, I should say, and evolved. Going back 2 or 3 years ago, you know, the mortgage business that I'm involved in, which is a really successful business, and you know, we're really proud of what we do for mortgage brokers. That came about through chance. I just got introduced to another guy, and we were both running businesses for mortgage brokers, and we just decided, well, hang on a tick, we're very similar, we like each other, we get on well. Why don't we combine our forces and do this together? Because we had complementary skills. Yep. So that is now a much more structured and systemized business. Because there's so much to building an online business, right? Like, I think this is what does people's heads in. Like, you know, you've got to create content, you've got to have a sales process, you've got to have a program, you've got to, you know, you've got to be able to build all of these things at the same time as, you know, being exceptionally good at what you do.
Yeah.
And then dovetailing that in to the lifestyle that you want for yourself. So, yeah, I tend to be a creature of habit, although I am creative, as you said, Martin, and I do like to create things, and I do like to help other people create things. And it's something that you said that I just want to remark on just quickly, and that is about, you know, how people get trapped in their thoughts and can become quite depressed and upset. I mean, I am 100% a believer in you cannot outrun yourself. You can outrun a lot of things, but you can't outrun what's inside, which is really the foundation cornerstone of my coaching, is fixing what's inside so that everything else outside changes. And this is really where everything is sourced from inside. So I have a particular process that I coach my clients through with working on the inside, so that you don't have to, you know, look out there for answers. All the answers are in here.
Yep.
which we know, but it's a whole nother thing to actually have a process to do that, because a lot of people are quite, I think, fearful of spending time alone with thoughts.
Yeah, no, I can understand where you're coming from there. A lot of people are fearful of spending time with themselves. I mean, but they're only going to get, you know, better results if they do spend time with themselves, do meditate, do process these trapped emotions, if you want to call it that. So I can relate with what you're saying. And also you mentioned about, you know, the inner work. Really, your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. I'm with you there, because I'm on the same page as you. And you also touched on, you know, burning the boats and taking the island, which to me reminds me of a saying that's been thrown around, that focus is the new IQ. I mean, multitasking is not really efficient. So whatever you're doing, do that in that moment and then move on to the next task, and not try and do 15 things at once, because then it's going to become very stressful and overwhelming. So, yeah, you've touched on some excellent points there.
Right.
Yeah, you also mentioned about some of the hardships you went through, which really gave you tools to use in your program to help other people, because other people are going to have to go through those same hardships or hurdles. So it kind of all, it's all, everything that happens, whether it's good or bad, it's all for you. You know what I mean? That's just how it is. So was there any other challenge that you faced along the way of building the business, and how did you overcome it?
Well, yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, to the side, and I've just to reflect a little bit on my family situation. So I've got an 18-year-old son who was the product of IVF. So my wife and I went through nearly 20 IVF cycles. So all the while I was going through trying to build my business, we were trying to have children, and failing and failing and failing, and all of the grief and hardship, as well as the money, because it's a very
Expensive.
expensive process. So that was a very, very difficult thing to be going through at the same time. And then our second child, our little girl, who's now 8, is adopted. So we've got a son from IVF and a daughter who's adopted. So all of these things were playing out pretty much for my whole entrepreneurial journey.
Yep.
And I had good people around me, to help me see things from a different perspective. But I'm also a very optimistic person, and I think, we all have our own different personalities. And I think it was Ray Dalio, the fund manager, the hedge fund manager, who's written some great books. I've got one of his books up there, Principles, fabulous book. I recommend it to anybody. Yeah, fabulous book. About, ultimately you've got to make your own decisions, but the smart person will get input from 360 degrees and make a decision based on full awareness of all perspectives of any given circumstance. So that's what I try to do too, and I try to help other people see things from a different perspective.
Yep.
See the future from a different perspective, see their life from a different perspective, and build their self-belief. Because I think self-belief is one of those things that's been, I think it's almost been crushed to a degree under all the busyness of life. I think you mentioned it before, Martin, about, multitasking and multi-skilling. I think, some people have got natural abilities, but I think for 99% of people, the busyness of life is the opposite of what they need to actually slow down. I call it stillness. Slow down and find that stillness to do the inner work. And I think because so many things are happening in life and so many distractions and so many ways to distract your mind from the inner work, that I think, people can live years or decades or their entire life like that. And that really worries me. And that's one thing that really drives me, is to help people understand that there is a way to pull out of that.
Get off the treadmill.
Yeah. And, as you said, nothing was ever achieved by multi-skilling, other than maybe, holding the phone and holding your baby at the same time. There's certain times in life when you've got to multi-skill, but I think generally speaking, and I like what you said, I haven't heard that before, focus is the new black, or focus is the new currency.
Your focus is the new IQ.
Yeah, I like that, because it's very, very difficult in a busy world to find focus. And then it's like, well, okay, what do I focus on?
Depends what you want. Yeah.
What is the most important thing to focus on? So, yeah, Martin. And I know you know this stuff really well too. So, I'm a student of human nature. I love helping people. I love understanding how they work and finding ways to help them. I mean, honestly, I would do it for free because I love doing it.
Yeah.
The fact that I have a business and can make a living doing it is the bonus. But, I love doing it anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I'm exactly the same. Like, it's important, I think, for people to ask themselves, like, if I won, say, the lottery, what would I do? Then that's the thing you should be doing now, and try and monetize it. Because I'm with you, putting money aside, I would still keep doing what I'm doing because I love it. It's fulfilling. I don't need the money to give me, how do you say, the good feeling, because I get the good feeling anyway. I'm kind of jumping to the end result because the money brings you obviously some comfort, but I'm getting the comfort and fulfillment just by doing what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm with you. And I like how you talked about the 360. I mean, you got to be a humble person to ask other people for feedback and not think, well, I know everything, because then you ain't going to grow. So yeah, you've touched on some key points there. And obviously you've been through a lot, and having that focus, kind of maybe it does sometimes come and go, but I agree. It is important to focus for a bit of time on something. It's like, I guess, your program, the Mindset Fit program. You probably had to dedicate a certain number of hours to focus on that. You can't sort of do that, I think, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Sometimes we've got to block out time and stay in our lane for, maybe a few days. And that's how it is.
Oh yeah, I would even go a step further, and whether it's my program or somebody else's program, but I mean, particularly online, I don't want to step into this tangent too far, but there's so many coaches and so many people in this whole mindset space and the coaching space. And look, a lot of them probably do great work, but I mean, from my perspective, mine is really just a reflection of what I've learned in life. And I think, to actually build my program, it's probably, hundreds of hours. But actually, as far as life experience, it's hundreds of thousands of hours. Like there's a lifetime of learnings.
Yep.
And I can only speak about my life, and that's not to say that somebody who's 20 wouldn't make a great coach as well. But I think it's for me to be able to reflect on your own experience, your own wins and losses, to be able to bring that forward into a pathway for other people to follow.
Yep.
To shorten the journey,
exactly,
so that they don't live another year, 5 or 10 or 20 years on the wrong path. That's what I find so much pleasure in. Like, I can't even begin to tell you how much I enjoy seeing people transform in my program. If I see them transform in someone else's program, that's fantastic as well. I just love seeing people change and transform before my eyes. And I think to be able to get somebody to do that in a reasonably accelerated period of time, like my program is over 9 weeks. It's quite intensive because, this thing up here, you would know this thing, this big pile of cells we call our brain, that thing, particularly if you're, say, 40, you've got 40 years of conditioned beliefs and neural pathways to get all sciencey for a moment. But to actually reprogram that, you can't reprogram that by watching a video or reading a book or doing a quick course. That takes time, effort, consistency, focus, and a lot of guidance and support. Like, it's very difficult to do that on your own. So it does take time. But the really good news is, what took me 20 years, you can shorten to, several weeks for someone else.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Like, even in general, I mean, whatever people want to do with their life, I mean, they can try and search for information, which I'm sure will help. But to me, in a way, is that efficient? You could spend months, years doing that, whereas sometimes just hiring a coach and doing a program, like I've done that myself. I've hired coaches, I've done programs because I didn't want to spend the next 5 years trying to figure it out. I'd rather just pay someone a couple of grand and just do it in a month. But it depends. Not everyone's in that position. But it's good that you're someone that's making that available, and you're sharing, what's you've learned and what's valuable. And that's, your program's going to outlast you, which I think is fantastic. I love for everyone to have something that they've created that outlasts them and is of benefit to society in 5 years' time, 50 years' time. Just like this interview, after we're both gone, someone might watch this interview and be inspired to say, hey, I've just got an idea now. I can maybe do this or do that. Start doing this or stop doing that. So I think it's fantastic. And we're lucky that we're in an era where we've got this technology where we can record and we can produce products, that people can kind of self-serve themselves. I'm not sure about your program, whether your program's fully online or whether people have also some one-on-one with you, but you can do a bit of both. Or is your program fully online, or do people still need to talk to you?
It's full online, but it's also blended with one-on-one with me. So it is. I mean, I do both. I do have some one-on-one consulting, but that's quite limited. Most of what I do is in a group structure, but blended with some one-on-one. With 9 steps. from A to B along 9 steps. So yeah, there's one-on-one and group combined. That's my program. But you're right. We live in a knowledge economy. It is the best time in human history to be alive, don't you think? Like,
Of course.
I
The kings and
I
queens
love
never
it.
had this. Yeah.
Oh, it's fabulous. Like, you can meet and talk to people like we're doing now. You can seek out and find the right mentor, guide, coach, pathway for yourself. And rather than spending, years, on the wrong pathway or trying to figure things out for yourself, there's so much expertise at our fingertips now. Of course, that can be overwhelming. So this is why, I guess, being able to have a chat like this and talk about what you're passionate about, connect with people that are looking for that. But people that aren't looking for that will look somewhere else. So that's why, me personally, I'm 100% a believer in being very clear about what you stand for, very clear about, what you do and the problem that you solve, so that if it's the right thing for someone, but not, that's right, that you can direct them or they can look elsewhere. So, it's a fantastic time to be alive. Yes, we've had this collective adversity in the world, with the pandemic, but I actually think a lot of good will ultimately come out of it, notwithstanding the bad. Obviously, the human side of it is very upsetting, but at a change-making level, I think a lot of good is going to come out of some of the enforced stillness and enforced isolation. So if anybody's watching this, I mean, you've got people like yourself and myself and others. Like, if people are a little bit stir crazy from all of the isolation, I mean, I would just encourage people to reach out and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Because a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yes, true. And you raised a good point. This virus, sure, it's done a lot of damage and caused a lot of pain and suffering. But on the other hand, it's actually got us all to stop for a moment, take a breath, and actually think about, what is important, and, maybe there is another way. And also, it's given us an opportunity to look at things from a different perspective. I bet you, some businesses are going to start doing things differently, which they never would have thought of before, because they're probably on that busy treadmill doing the same thing over and over and not realize there is another way or two to do things. So, like you said, there's always a positive to something that's a negative. So that's good to point that out. Now, may I ask you, how did you get your first mindset client?
Well, look, in the early days, my clients always approached me. Like, I didn't do any advertising or marketing at all. And I think, particularly in the finance world, my first few clients were in the finance world. I'm relatively well known just by a result of having been in that industry for 3 decades, right? And knowing a lot of people. So, yeah, that's where my first couple of clients came from. I'm going back probably, 3 or so years ago now. I mean, I always did, as I said, Martin, I always did coach around
Just naturally.
and belief and personal change. But it was just something that was naturally part of what I did. I didn't actually identify it as a specific service. But my first actual, what I would call paying clients, were finance brokers, back, as I say, 3 or 4 years ago, which we still coach. But mindset clients who are coming for personal transformation, and to work on that inner incongruence that exists. That was probably 12, 18 months ago. So that first couple of clients came through LinkedIn, of course. Believe it or not, just through people contacting me through LinkedIn, wanting to have a chat, which still happens to this day, fairly regularly. So yeah, that's my answer to that question.
So you touched on a couple of good points. So it comes from, I guess, doing good work and people seeing that, and also putting yourself out there, doing some posts, and people like or resonate. Then they come in contact. Yeah, so it makes a perfect sense. Well, thanks for that. So, Ash, what advice would you give to someone that may be thinking of a career change or starting a business?
Look, I guess it's a bit of a 30,000-foot answer, but I would always encourage people to pursue their passion. You know, I guess the greatest achievement that you can achieve in your life is to align your beliefs and your goals and passions in life and pursue them. So I would encourage anybody that's considering entrepreneurship or going into business or coaching or consulting is very much to connect the outcome they want with the person that they are or the beliefs that they hold. And that's the greatest achievement I think that you can have as a human being, that contentment and clarity and certainty that comes from knowing you're on that pathway.
Yep.
So I would encourage anybody that, wants to take that entrepreneurship journey, just get started. And yeah, look, have a chat. Look, there's lots of terrific people, you, me, and lots of others that can guide someone on how to, I guess, connect goals and beliefs. Because it's amazing to me how often, with people that I see, particularly even successful coaches and entrepreneurs that I've worked with, on the outside, they're doing quite well. On the inside, there's a lot of turmoil and a lot of incongruence and a lot of lack of belief, which it might sound surprising to some people. It's actually very, very common. So my advice is work on that inner process as early as you possibly can, so you don't find yourself, fair way down the track with some success, but burnout and overwhelm and emotional pain as part of it. Life is meant to be well lived. So I would just encourage anybody is to do a bit of that inner work early on. The sooner the better.
Yeah, no, good point there. And it's music to my ears what you're saying, Ash, about passion and purpose, because I'm all about, helping people find their passion and their purpose. And also, like you said, people might look successful on the outside, but what's going on the inside? Like Tony Robbins says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. So what's the point of just, being successful, making money, but then being miserable every day because you hate what you do, you don't believe in what you're selling? That's the incongruence, or what I call inner conflict. It's like driving a car with your foot on the accelerator and the brake. It's not going to be a nice feel. So it is important to get that, like you said, the passion, the goals and the beliefs all aligned, because that's when you start to flow and your true spirit, flows, and people can feel that energy, that vibration. I mean, if you're trying to sell something that you don't believe in or don't like, I think it's going to be harder to succeed. And that's what I've noticed also, some struggling entrepreneurs, they focus sometimes too much on the money, as opposed to, making a quick buck, as opposed to doing something that's really who they are. And they're just, being like a messenger. So yeah, music to my ears, Ash. I mean, it's beautiful what you've just said. So how can people learn more about you, Ash, your work, or get in contact with you?
Simply, Martin. Obviously, LinkedIn is my primary platform. I don't spend a lot of time on other platforms, but I'm easily contactable on LinkedIn with a direct message. So anybody that wants to check out who I am, check out my profile on LinkedIn, and then all my contact details are in my profile.
Yep,
or
I'll
just
put a
DM.
link.
So that's the primary place, and obviously my website is just ashplaysted.com. So anybody that wants to book a chat with me or just check a little bit more can check my website. So they're the only two places, Martin: LinkedIn and my website.
Yeah, cool. I'll put them in the comments or in the description of this post so people can reach out to you. So that's great. Do you have any final words, Ash?
Look, I think we've summed it up really well, but I would probably characterize it as, and you mentioned this word before, vibration. Get your vibrational signature right. What you vibrate out into the world is a result of your thoughts. So I think this is what we know. So focus on your thoughts and creating the signature that you want to send out into the world. That is what will attract what you want from the world. So this is a really powerful process. So if anybody wants to know that the secret of creating the right vibrational signature is the answers are there for anybody that's prepared to do the work to look within. So to answer your question, look within, not outside. If you want to change the outside, change the inside. And there is great people, obviously we do that kind of work, but there are many people who do excellent work in that space to help people connect the inside with the outside, and then just take action on a daily basis.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, so start from inside out and get the vibration right. Like you said, our thoughts are kind of vibrations in the universe, and it's important to tune into the right channel, the channel of what you want, not what you don't want. And that's the problem. A lot of people spend the whole day thinking about what they don't want and don't think about what they do want. And it's quite interesting. Well, thanks for that, Ash, and thanks for taking time out to talk to me today. And your story is very inspiring, and I'm sure people get a lot of benefit out of some of the points that you've raised. So that's excellent. So if anyone is listening and has some mental blocks, then reach out to Ash. And like I said, I'll put his contact details in this post. And that's a wrap. Well, thanks, everyone, and have a great day.
Thanks for having me on, Martin. I've loved every moment. Thanks, mate.
Thank you.